Hi, everybody. I think we're live. I'm delighted to be with you for this is my second Ask Dr. Ann live stream. A few things for those that don't know me. I'm a physician, an MD. I specialize in wellness. That means my expertise is in food, nutrition, healthy living, disease prevention. I love setting people straight about, particularly when they have questions, when they're confused about something, which is pretty epidemic. And I love questions related to my expertise. A couple things. Please refrain from asking me questions, even though I am an MD, about medication, because that is not my world anymore. I left my clinical practice. It's been 25 years. I was in clinical practice for about 18. So I don't work in the world of pharmaceuticals at all anymore. And so I'm not going to answer any questions specifically related to medication. All right, without housekeeping out of the way, I have a ton of questions already submitted. I'm going to start with those first. That's the way we always do it. And I wish I didn't have to put my glasses on. Let's see if I could even do it without it. No, I probably can't do that. And I have to put them on. Okay. So the first question was, do you have a book recommendation? This is someone, and that's 70 health books related to healthy aging. And I have a great one. I love Andrew Weil. He is an MD, world renowned. He's pretty famous. He's kind of like a celebrity. And he was probably the pioneer in terms of MDs getting into wellness. He's written many books. And one of his latest books is called Healthy Aging. And just want to say, I happen to read because I was always drawn to, nutrition and wellness, even, as a teenager. But I happened to read in my late 30s a couple of his books, and they played an instrumental role in giving me the courage I needed and the science I needed, right? The evidence base, oh my gosh, to leave my very successful clinical practice to become, someone that professionally just deals with nutrition and healthy living. So give him a big, huge plug. He deserves, he put it this way, he paved the way for many of us. Next question. Hi, Dr. Ann. I'm wondering if using powdered vegetables in soups and smoothies is healthy. I'm trying to increase my vegetable intake. While these products seem like a good way to add fruits and vegetables to my diet, I'm concerned they're not because they're not in their natural form. Perhaps they're not as, aren't that helpful. Are you cheating yourself nutrient-wise when eating? So that was one question. Let me answer that one first. So there's nothing better than to eat the real food. Okay. What do we have data on? We have data on eating the real food. There's likely some benefits in these fruit and vegetable powders, but do we have any, really any data or zero long-term data, right? So why don't you just go with what we know can make a big difference and strive. Plus, it's probably a lot less expensive to eat the real fruits and vegetables versus buying those powders. Okay. So, if you're getting your ideally 7 to 9 servings total of fruits and vegetables a day, I don't have a problem if you want to use some of those powders. I don't use them. Okay. I think it's unnecessary. And there's a part of me that they just don't kind of agree with because they're not in their natural real form. They're definitely don't have the structure and the physical structure of fruits and vegetables, and the fiber structure is really, really important for health. So, I wouldn't waste my money on those. And then the next question was, are you cheating yourself nutrient-wise when eating pre-cut chopped vegetables from produce section? So what I find is they just don't taste as fresh and as good. Okay, that's one thing. And I'm all about taste. The second thing is, there is likely, I can't say I've reviewed specific studies where they analyze pre-cut vegetables cut, 4 or 5 days before with something you cut right away. I can't say I've seen those studies, but it would make sense to me that there may be some minor decrease in some of the nutrients. But again, I haven't really seen head-to-head studies comparing that. Okay. healthy couple in our 70s and love Costco canned white albacore tuna. How much can we safely consume each week? Okay, so this question is basically a better way that I'm going to phrase it to teach you is that there are certain species of fish that we want to avoid. These are the longer living, larger sort of carnivorous fish, right? Because environmental toxins can accumulate in them. Methylmercury, PCBs, dioxins, there are lots of environmental contaminants out there now. And the species you want to not eat are shark, marlin, tallfish, swordfish, and king mackerel. Albacore tuna is moderately high in methylmercury. It's not going to be a concern for an adult woman who is beyond childbearing age, and it's not going to be a problem for any adult male as part of a balanced diet. Okay, and so what is that? So to me, if you're having albacore tuna more than a couple servings a week, maybe you don't have a balanced diet. When are you getting some of the other things? And let me tell you what we do. We occasionally do some albacore tuna, but I much prefer people doing canned salmon. You can make it just like you do your tuna, and it's way better because it's cleaner. Canned salmon is wild salmon. It is more sustainable, and it does have even a higher dose of omega-3 fats and likely some other nutrients. So that would be my advice for that. We've been following your advice for years. Thank you for your dedication to wellness education. Well, my honor, my pleasure. I love what I do. I'm very interested in trying time-restricted eating and watch one of your videos about it. It seems to be a contradiction that you should try to eat a certain way based on sunset, but that time, because that time can change. Can you clarify? Okay. Yes, of course. The time that sun sets and rises changes minusculely over, day to day to day, but like daylight savings time is a sudden hour shift, right? And over time, there is a bit of a shift. Okay. So what I would say here is your primary clock that is incredibly important. It's located in your brain. Its master regulator is light from the outside, light from the sun. Okay. All right. And that's the master clock in the brain. But there are peripheral clocks. And the master cue for these peripheral clocks, specifically the organs of metabolism, right? Like liver and pancreas and your muscle tissue and fat tissue, is food. And so food and eating can actually override or kind of fight against the master clock of the sun. And we don't want that. We want the peripheral clocks that are primed by eating and the central clock in the brain that's primed by outside light to be in sync. Okay. And what this means, time-restricted feeding, is this concept of limiting all of your caloric intake to a 12-hour or less window over the day. I'm a huge advocate of it. I've got an entire e-course on that. To tell you all the ins and outs of it would take me over an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. But for this person, essentially what she's saying is, let's say, for example, her eating window was 9 to 7, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Well, we just had this time change, right? And so 7 p.m. is now really 8 p.m. Okay. All right. And it does get darker earlier. And because we want the peripheral clocks to kind of be lining up more so with the sun, what I would tell that person to do is kind of what I'm working on. We always see that the sooner we can end our eating and the closer we can end it around sundown, the better. And at the end of the day, all we can do is the best we can do. And I am gradually trying. Before this time change, I was trying to end my eating by 7. Sometimes it was 7:30. And so now I'm sort of still sticking to that, but I know it's not as good because it really is in reality by the sun, different. So I am trying to kind of push back my ending my eating. It'll probably take me a few weeks to get to this, back into this routine of trying to end my eating in a way by 6:30. Okay. And that's fine. That's fine. So again, just minor changes in this window here and there. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. Okay. Doesn't have to be exact. Doesn't have to be exact. You're just striving day to day from one day to the next to include all of your eating in a certain window. And it is smarter to try to end it as close to sundown as you reasonably can. Does that make sense? Okay. I hope that answered that. So I guess I would say to this person, it doesn't need to be that exact. All right. 2 questions. I'm just wondering about magnesium supplements. I eat lots of nuts and seeds, dark leafy greens, which I understand are good sources. Also, there's some in my multivitamins. So a few things on magnesium. So magnesium is a critically important essential mineral. It's involved in hundreds of biochemical pathways in the body, very important life processes, everything from, neurofunction, muscle function. I mean, it's just all over the place, right? And deficiencies of magnesium are not rare. About half the population doesn't have optimal levels of magnesium. The foods are provided. If you eat healthfully, I find it almost unimaginable, if you're, otherwise don't have any sort of problem with your digestive system and absorption, that you could be low in it. So the foods that give you the most are going to be whole grains, nuts and seeds, leafy greens. There's a little bit in seafood, a little bit in dairy. Okay. Beans, I say legumes, so legumes, nuts and seeds, whole grains. All right. So if you're eating those foods like I do, you likely don't need a magnesium supplement. That said, many people can't achieve it. I mean, they just are not eating those foods often enough and enough quantity for it to make a difference, or for it to keep them magnesium supported in their bodies. And I'm not against magnesium supplements. I take a magnesium supplement at night specifically because I've noticed it helps me sleep. I do take a multivitamin. In fact, did I leave my I just ate my lunch and I meant to take my vitamins. I forgot. So most multivitamins have small amounts, like mine has 12% of the RDA. And I take magnesium, not so much that I'm worried I'm going to be low. I'm worried. I take it to enhance my sleep. There's all sorts of different forms of magnesium. If you're someone that wants to improve your sleep, then the magnesium glycinate, or sometimes called bisglycinate, or magnesium threonate, or a combination of those can be really good. Sometimes you see magnesium glycinate, threonate with taurate, anyway, it's fine. Just know that you should use magnesium supplements as directed on the bottle. Taking excessively high doses of magnesium can be you can get diarrhea, GI side effects. In rare cases, you can have arrhythmias. So you just want to make sure you're taking an appropriate dose. What is that? 250 milligrams? Is it 100 milligrams? 300 milligrams? I mean, it's kind of, there's a range there. And of course, please always check with your healthcare provider prior to taking any supplements. All right. Concerning colonoscopies, I know they're quite useful in detecting colon cancer. Yes, they are. They can save your life. Absolutely. So if you are, the recommendations now are like 45 and above, and you haven't had a screening colonoscopy, or as directed by your physician, because if you've got special risk factors, you might need it starting in your 20s, then for goodness sakes, please get your colonoscopy and get it repeated as the doctor recommends, because it can save your life. And people that have super healthy diets can sometimes get colon polyps, which can develop into colon cancer. So this person is concerned about the prep. I can't help but wonder if the prep, for one, with total empty of the colon, is harmful to the gut microbiome. I'm sure it has an impact, but it would be in the scheme of the risk-benefit ratio there. I mean, it's not even a contest, and it would be a very temporary disruption. So that is not even, that's a non-issue. So let that go. Let that go. Okay. I mean, the benefits of getting it are so far out of out of much higher than any like very short term, maybe a little bit of a disruption in your microbiome. So hope that clarifies that. Is there a risk of adverse health effects with consuming roasted vegetables baked at 425 or higher, or grilled vegetable foods? So there's lots of ways healthy ways you can prepare vegetables. Okay. You can eat them raw. You can eat them lightly steamed. You can stir steam them, which is kind of like almost saute them, and you can roast them. Those are the best ways. What you don't want to do is you don't want to boil them. So it's how long they've been exposed to heat. Okay. And long cooking times. And if they're in water, the water soluble nutrients will leach out into the liquids. That's like vitamin C, the B vitamins. And unless you're drinking that water, you're losing some of the nutritional value if you boil your vegetables. So I eat lots of raw. I eat steamed. I eat sauteed, and I eat roasted. I had roasted broccoli last night. I had it just a minute ago left over for lunch. And what I would suggest, you don't need to, we're not worried about roasting vegetables being like, oh, like turning the vegetable into something bad. I mean, there's so much good stuff in there. Okay. There may be some minor diminution of nutrients, but there's so much goodness. It's like, don't worry about that. I would suggest to you though, you don't need to roast at 425. And the one reason I wouldn't do that is I love using extra virgin olive oil on as my coating, as my healthy fat on my roasted veggies, right? And you're gonna have more of the benefits of the olive oil if you can keep that heat at 400 or less. And you can roast at 350, 375, 400. I typically do 400. Okay. And you can also, I don't typically cook vegetables in the microwave. I don't love the way their texture and their texture, and sometimes their taste is after that. But there are some studies that because it's so short-lived heat exposure that finds it can be another totally healthy way to do it. So I hope that answered that. So I would just back that heat down, and I do roasted veggies all the time. One thing great about roasted veggies is because it takes the water out. It concentrates their natural flavors. There are many people that you cannot get to eat, for example, steamed broccoli, but you can get them to devour roasted broccoli, including kids. And because they shrivel down so much, you're getting that much more nutrition, right? Versus because they're shriveled. So you can eat a lot more roasted broccoli than you probably would steamed broccoli. Does that make sense? Okay. Then also, do we need to be using, for non-organic fruits and veggies, should they be rinsed? Is it okay they're rinsed in plain water? Totally fine. And it's the most hygienic, best way to rinse your fruits and veggies is with running water, okay? That's better than submerging them into still water in a sink. You can do that. I do that with lettuce. But then I'm still going to sort of run the water over it, running water, because it's pulling away things that, might be bad for you, right? Versus like maybe just they're in the water, and maybe when you pull it out, they're still in the water. Okay. I noticed in your Costco buy list was the mixed nuts. Don't they have oil that is not good for you? Okay, great question. Let's all try to make sure we have perspective on things like this. So first of all, the data on nuts and health it's overwhelming. And most of the large population studies would just be people eating nuts, how they're regularly found on the shelf, which is typically many times the roasted nuts have a little bit of tiny amounts, minuscule amounts of some kind of oil. It could be sometimes soybean oil, or it could be canola oil or whatever. First of all, it's such a tiny amount, and I'm not worried about canola oil, but soybean oil is not my favorite thing. But are tiny amounts going to bother you? No. Okay. So again, it's one of those things like it's a non-issue. It's just like sometimes people say, oh, I see some sugar in the peanut butter. Well, in the scheme, I mean, if all you can get your kid to do is eat Peter Pan, because so much benefits of peanut butter. And oh yeah, it has a little sugar, but in the scheme of things, it's a minuscule amount. It's just not going to make a meaningful difference. So you're still taking so many steps forward, maybe 8 forward, one or two back. Who cares? Okay. Because that's the only way you can get your kid to eat, peanut butter. And so I love Costco's roasted mixed nuts. They're fantastic. They're extraordinary. And I'm not worried about the minuscule amounts of some sort of added vegetable oil. And I don't think anyone needs to worry about that. Okay. Got to get back to my place. Lost my place. Sorry, when the phone goes to sleep, I have to kind of catch back up to where I was on these questions. Okay. All right. What is your opinion on bananas? Should I refrain from eating one every day? Okay, so all fruit is great. Okay, so all fruit, enjoy it. Now, there's some fruits that are better than others for certain people. There really are. So one thing about bananas, and I eat bananas. I buy them most every time I go to the grocery store, but I wouldn't put them in the camp like a superstar. So, I think apples are going to be better. Berries are going to be better. So let me give you a couple of, qualifier things here, or things to make you understand this. So phytochemicals, which is a huge reason we eat, I want you to eat plant-based foods, kind of concentrate in the skin and just below the skin. Okay. All right. And so bananas are a fruit where you never eat skin because you have to peel them. Right. So that is one reason that they don't have the phytochemical oomph that you can get in some of these more temperate fruits. The other thing is, if someone is diabetic, they can have their bananas. It's fine. But if you had to pick between a banana and a temperate fruit like berries or cherries, then, and apples, maybe pears, it's going to be better to go with those because their propensity to push your glucose up, they'll send your glucose up a little bit less high, the temperate fruits relative to the bananas. But another important thing, great thing about bananas, particularly when they're underripe, right? When they're underripe, they have more resistant starch. This is a prebiotic. Prebiotics are the names of the specific few things that promote the growth of good gut bacteria. And so bananas, underripe bananas are high in this resistant starch. And they do have a lower glycemic response, as you would expect. They're not as sweet. They're a little tougher, a little firmer. So their starch structure is different than a fully ripe banana. And so if you're going to do bananas, the best way to do them is a little bit underripe, right? So maybe a little still green in the peel. It's kind of hard to peel it. But I would definitely be doing your apples and your berries and your cherries over, as a precedent in a way over the bananas. But I'm totally fine with someone having a banana every day. And, there are probably 20 foods that have just as much, if not more, potassium than bananas. So don't think that bananas are your only source of potassium. What do you recommend in lieu of eating bread for a sandwich? Okay, so I'm pretty much on record because I know the data on physically intact whole grains and how much better they are than even 100% whole grain bread. So that's like oatmeal, brown rice, barley, quinoa, spelt. There are lots of them you can get. Farro. And the problem with 100% whole grain breads, and I don't want to really necessarily call it a problem, but what makes bread, 100% whole grain bread products less favorable is that they've been significantly physically processed. And that physical processing speeds up their digestibility, speeds up their, elevates their glycemic response. And for someone that has background metabolic issues, which is now most Americans, okay, we have half of Americans that are either pre-diabetic or diabetic, okay, and then still another probably 20% that definitely have some background insulin resistance. And in my opinion, even 100% whole grain bread for them, if you wear a CGM, you can kind of see how you respond to it, is not an ideal thing. And so what do I do is I will use lettuce. Okay. When I really want that kind of thing, sometimes like we're camping and I've made salmon salad or something like that. And I really want it like you kind of have a sandwich. Well, then you can do a lettuce wrap, right? And you can use romaine for that. You can use other kind of lettuces, but you kind of wrap it up. Or I love these Norwegian grain and seed crackers. You can get them probably get them online. You can get them at grocery stores. Trader Joe's has their own brand. They're amazing. I mean, like 6, 7 different plant-based foods. And they have rye flour, which is probably, if you're going to have a bread, 100% authentic rye bread is probably one of the healthiest whole grain breads to have. Otherwise, choose breads that give you the most fiber and the most protein. Okay. So that's what I do. And it's just not that often that I feel like I need a sandwich thing. It's just not that a big part of my diet. Wondered if Oikos 000 yogurt is acceptable. This is someone that really is the only one they seem to be able to tolerate. They know the importance of calcium and protein for them because I think there was a comment here, just some certain health things that she knows she needs those. So I really have no major issues with Oikos 000. It's got a wonderful amount of protein. It's got a nice dose of calcium. My one slight reservation, like I wouldn't do it because I don't like sugar substitutes in any form. And I know that Oikos has got stevia in it. Okay. So, what I would do is I would get if you like the Oikos and it agrees with you, why don't you get the Oikos plain and then just put a little bit of a more wholesome sweetener like raw honey or blackstrap molasses, or a little date syrup to make it sweet. Okay. That would be sort of my inclination, but I'm not that. We know that all sugar substitutes, including stevia, alter the microbiome. We don't really have strong evidence that stevia, we need more studies, alters it in an adverse way, but it may. Some of them definitely do. Thank you for thanking me for what I do. I'm seeing these comments and I'm grateful for those comments. How much flax, chia, and hemp daily? So I love this triple seed mix. And maybe some of you know that I love taking a big quart jar, mason jar, and doing, about a third each of hemp seeds, flax seeds, and chia seeds. And then I mix it all up and I keep it in my fridge and I just try to sprinkle it on things. I don't, again, there's no hard, fast rules, use it as it works in your life. And I probably do, when I do it, a couple of, and I try to do it most days, I probably do like 2 heaping tablespoons of it a day. And I try to drink water with it because chia seeds absorb a lot of water and you kind of, it's a good thing to have some liquid, probably help you with appetite control too, if you have the water with those seeds. Does heat destroy, alter the good gut bacteria in yogurt? For example, mixing yogurt into a sauce or soup. Okay, great question. So the temperature you want to avoid any probiotic food. You want to avoid taking it to temperatures above 115, 120 degrees Fahrenheit, because if you do, it's going to kill off significant portions of the beneficial bacteria. Okay. So what I would recommend and what I do, in fact, I'm hosting my year-long Zoom students tomorrow here at our farm. That's where I am right now. And we're having a stew and I'm going to have yogurt, a dollop of yogurt to go on top of that with some cilantro. And I could, flavor wise, I could mix it in. I could put it in the stew now, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to alter. So I would say put it in, once it's cooled a bit, at least below 120, because otherwise it will. But, there may be times where it's called for in the recipe. And again, it's okay. I mean, there's still benefits in yogurt besides the probiotics. So if it's going to mess up your recipe to not do it as directed, that's okay. And you just use another opportunity to get your probiotics or your fermented foods. Okay. I'd love some tips on how to get 20 grams of protein into my breakfast before 10 a.m. Okay. So, just so people know, there is, some good evidence that if we can get a nice dose of protein early on in the day, particularly, when in our, earlier feedings, that it can help us with appetite control over the remainder of the day. So I'm a big advocate of making sure at your first feeding, whatever that may be, that you do get a nice dose of protein, 20, 25 grams. I'm fine if it's even higher. And some simple rules of thumb for any animal-based food, chicken, chicken, fish, any animal-based protein, the size of a deck of cards, 4 ounces is going to be anywhere from 25 to 27 grams. Okay. So there's a ton there. So like even 3 ounces of chicken, or 3 ounces of those things is going to give you around 21. Okay. Okay. So you can, you can have any of those that you like. Obviously, lean chicken or salmon would be good ones to do. And then you have eggs. Okay. Eggs typically have 7. You have tofu and tempeh. I think a half a cup of tofu. What you need to do, you need to start kind of looking yourself and educating yourself about the grams of protein in these things. And then you start building it yourself. 2 tablespoons of peanut butter is going to be like 7. Okay. So you can get it from nuts. You can get it from seeds. You can, and again, you don't get like in the weeds on it. Like, oh, I got to do it every day. I got to make sure I'm getting this. Just, come up with like 3 first feedings or 3 breakfasts that are healthy, that you like, and you've kind of done the math, and you can build the protein. It can be some from this, some from that, some from whatever. You see what I'm saying? Greek yogurt, unreal. I mean, Greek yogurt, one serving is 21 to even more grams, right? So kefir is not as much as Greek yogurt, but I think you get like 9 with kefir. So there's so many different ways. You just have to play around with the math yourself. Okay. Okay. I'm just going with these questions got submitted first, and I see so many other ones, and you can see I could do this all day, which I can't do. Okay. What is your opinion on monk fruit sweetener? So, I'm not a big advocate of monk fruit sweetener. I don't do it. What I tell people to do when, assuming they're not full-on diabetic, is, first of all, fruit needs to be your, treat of fruit or dark chocolate. High cacao dark chocolate should be your treat of choice. And then otherwise, when do you ever feel like you need to use sugar? Maybe like, okay, I don't like plain yogurt plain, so I want to put drizzle a little honey or something on there. I don't mind small amount added sugars here or there, but it shouldn't be something that's like you do it a lot. And what I do and recommend is, like I already said, raw honey, a little bit of raw honey, a little bit of blackstrap molasses, maybe a little bit of date syrup. Those are my preferred sweeteners versus monk fruit. Do we have any long-term data on monk fruit? No. I mean, is it been, kind of extracted in kind of a industrial setting? Yeah. It's not like you're eating monk fruit. It's not like it's like super natural. It's been extracted, I'm sure, using chemicals and things like that. Okay. Does taking medication with water break my time-restricted eating schedule? No, you must take your medicine as directed, and it should not alter your time-restricted eating. Regarding sausages, is the issue the nitrites and nitrates? That's certainly one. I'm seeing labels like chicken and apple chorizo, minimally processed, no nitrates. Okay. Also, your thoughts on turkey and chicken-based sausage. So the definition of processed meat. Let's back up. Processed meat is any meat that's been salted, smoked, cured, or otherwise has otherwise had the addition of chemical preservatives. That's the definition of processed meat. And the data on processed meat and poor health outcomes is very strong. Very strong. Okay. All right. And so what is it? What is in processed meats that we're, well, is it some sort of preservative? Is it the salt? Is it the smoking process? And some of the preservatives are things like nitrates, nitrites. We know those can create carcinogens inside the body. So although my sense is for sure that turkey and chicken would be better than red meat processed, I can't, it's still a form of processed meat, even the chicken and turkey. Yes. Okay. Yeah. If you can get it nitrate free, if you can give it, all these more natural things, I'm sure that helps. I'm sure it helps. And that if you're going to do it, that would be the way I would do it. But if you're going to do it, hopefully it's pretty rare, right? Because that's what I do. I don't ever buy any form. I don't buy processed meats. I don't buy sausages. I don't buy kielbasa. There was a time earlier in my, maybe when I was feeding my kids that I would do some like chicken sausage, things like that. But I don't do that any longer. Okay. But they would be better than buying like standard bacon. Does that make sense? Or standard pork or beef sausage. Okay. This is someone that has always been thin and loses weight easily. The issue is I've been eating very healthy, and because of that, and that will do it. Healthy eating will help you lose weight. They have lost weight, which they didn't need to do. So we don't like anyone being underweight, and we especially don't like being underweight as you get, more elderly, right? Because you need some caloric reserve in case something bad happened to you, which is your greater risk when you're much older to get significantly ill. And because the fat reserves can be important. It's also very important for women of childbearing age. They need to support the life of another child. So we don't want women that want to have babies and nurse babies to be underweight. And the recommendation for people that have this, Methuselah gene, this lucky whatever genetic build that they tend to have time keeping weight on, is they just have to eat more healthy foods, and they do have to eat more. And knowing that fat has 9 calories per unit gram versus carbs and protein that have 4, the logical thing is to make sure you're including lots of healthy fats, because you're getting more calories in per unit volume versus the carbs and protein. But eat more healthy carbs, eat more healthy protein. Weightlifting, resistance exercise, building the muscle can also be very helpful. Anyway, so that would be my recommendation there. And then let's see if I can get to some of these questions. Are there certain foods that you don't eat late in the day? So it's not good to eat any calories late at all, right? Because of what I talked about earlier. You are now activating the peripheral clocks and telling them it's daytime, and your central clock is like, no, aligned to the sun. It's like, no, this is night. Well, it's very disruptive for circadian rhythm, which has huge impacts adversely on everything. Okay. So I would just, again, as I said earlier, always strive to do the best you can, ending your eating. And I'm talking every bit, one bite will activate those peripheral clocks. So ending all your eating as close to sundown as reasonably possible for your life. Someone's asking me how old I am. I can tell you that I'm a grandmother, and I'm above 60. Okay. What is sourdough? Why is sourdough bread good? So I don't really think any breads are great. Okay. But certain breads are better than others. So 100% whole grain bread. And if you can get 100% whole grain bread that's sourdough is more acidic. That's why it's called sour. And the acids, or the more acidic nature of sourdough bread, will decrease its digestibility. Not in a way that can hurt you, but in a way that can make its glycemic response less. So if you can get whole grain sourdough, right, it's a really good choice. But, white sourdough bread, I don't consider that any health food. I would probably say I'd rather you still do the 100% whole grain, because you're getting all the things, all the phytochemicals and the minerals and the vitamins in the whole grain, whereas standard white sourdough is still just white flour. It's largely devoid of any nutrients. It may not send your glucose up as much, but again, you need nutrients to, in addition to calories. How do you feel about edamame? Edamame is wonderful. It's a whole soy food. It's actually a fresh green soybean. Most all edamame is organic. I always recommend organic whole soy foods, and most are. Sometimes you see edamame that's not, but how wonderful. It's fresh green soybeans. Soybeans are amongst the most nutritionally, their nutritional profile, the vitamins and minerals they have, all beans are off the charts, but soybeans are like way up. So very special. Nutritional yeast on roasted veggies. Great nutritional yeast. It's got some lots of B12 in it, some vitamins, it's got minerals, it's got some protein in it, and it's got a taste kind of like Parmesan cheese. And vegans and vegetarians will use it often to get their B12 in, get a little more protein in, and because it has that umami flavor like Parmesan cheese. I have not read Outlive by Peter Attia. I am an enormous respect for Peter Attia, and for his work and his intellect and his extremely high quality podcast. And I love it because I love all the science, and he can, sometimes really get in the weeds. I think it's sometimes a little challenging for the average person. I want to read his book. I haven't read it. I've heard great things about it. So it's on my list with probably about 7 other books. Let's see. I'm scared of hemp. How are we absolutely sure they're okay? Are they just a fad? Does the market for them encourage farmers to make what? Is that a joke? So hemp seeds, first of all, do not contain any THC. They're extraordinarily healthy seeds. Their nutrition is off the charts. It's almost like maybe one of Mother Nature's most perfect foods. They have all the essential fats. They have all the essential amino acids. They have high in minerals, high in vitamins. They have omega-3 fats. I mean, so they're just quite extraordinary. You are welcome. Dark chocolate, what's really okay with the lead and cadmium? So there's certainly brands of dark chocolate that you can get that don't have problematic levels of these heavy metals and still give you all that wonderful polyphenols. And there are more than one brand. The one I'm just going to tell you because I can't keep all the stuff in my head, so I try to always memorize at least one. Right. So Ghirardelli. Josie, stop it. Ghirardelli, which is a very commonly available at a standard grocery store dark chocolate you can get. In some analysis that I've read, their 72% was very high in polyphenols. That's the beneficial active ingredients of dark chocolate, and did not have levels of heavy metals that we would be concerned about if you're consuming dark chocolate like I recommend, which is 1 to 2 squares a day. All right. Let's see, random person who just wanted to say something in a Q&A. So hello. Okay. Well, hello to you. Carnivore diet. So I'm very evidence-based in what I do. And I think the evidence, particularly long-term, it's overwhelming. It's absolutely overwhelming. If you want to be assured that you are consuming the healthiest diet, we have over 2 million studies that have been conducted over the last, 50 years, 50, 60, 70 years, looking at food, nutrition, health, blah, blah, blah. And if you distill all those studies down, because some very esteemed researchers have done all that kind of stuff to try to, come up with what is the healthiest diet. Well, the good news is the pathway to optimal health through diet, gratefully, is broad and can accommodate a broad range of eating styles. Hallelujah for that, right? You can be vegan, you can be vegetarian, you can be flexitarian, you can be pescatarian, you could be paleo, you could be omnivorous, you could even be keto, but I would qualify with that. It would need to be plant-based keto. and reach optimal health through all those ways. Now, that said, there are two things you must be able, whatever way you choose to eat, there are two things that you must be able to say you are doing most all the time to be assured that the way you're eating is the healthiest, I'll say a healthiest diet, right? Because there are lots of iterations of this. The two things are, number one, you are eating primarily, almost all the time, real foods, right? Real foods. And a good lens to use is say to yourself, could my great, great, great grandmother have eaten this food? So, if you take a food and you look at the ingredients list, you say, wait a minute, I don't even know what that is. I can't even have that in my own kitchen. Okay. That's not a real food. It's been, it's industrial, it's been processed. It's, so that's when you are real food. The second thing is that you don't have to be exclusively plants, but you better be hammering a variety of plant-based foods. You have to. Okay. And the reason is because plants are the only foods that give us fiber for the microbiome. Plants are the only foods that have phytochemicals, which I can just, I can talk to you an hour about the benefits of phytochemicals. And, just one is, okay, it's like rocket fuel. Some of them for the good gut bugs, anti-inflammatory power, antioxidant power, flipping on the gene for BDNF in the brain. That is like miracle growth for your brain, on and on and on. So, and fruits and plant-based foods also have the highest nutrient density. Why do humans have to eat? We need calories. We need 42 plus essential nutrients. All right. And we do need these other health protective factors like the phytochemicals and prebiotics, resistant starches and things like that. Right. And you just don't have those in animal-based foods. Right. And I have no problem with someone doing something, more extreme like carnivore, particularly short term. And I'm aware of people that do it or have done it that have pre-existing health issues and can feel a lot better. And it's probably because they're bypassing pathways that are messed up. But what we'd like to do is let's get those pathways fixed, right? Right. And put it this way, if one of my children was doing carnivore diet and was going to do it long term, I would be extremely worried as their mother who loves them very much. Okay, about 45 minutes. And I think what we'll do is we probably need to call it a wrap. I wanted to make sure anyone that may be on here, make sure if you're not currently a member of my community, first of all, we welcome you. I create a lot of free stuff as part of what I do. And then I have an online school where I do have free courses, but I have a lot of courses that are that you pay for. And many of them are, big, amazing messages, very, 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 produced in such a way that people just love them. And I'm going to have my biggest sale of the year. It's my Black Friday sale, like many people that offer things for sale. And so if you have any interest in tapping into, the 2 days of the year in which you have the steepest discount on access to a blockbuster e-course, then for goodness sakes, join my list, because that's how you're going to hear about the sale and how you can access it. And it'll be very short. And you can just click the link in my bio to take you to sign up, or you can go to my website, just Google Dr. Ann, DRANN, it's Dr. Ann Wellness, and you can see the sign up button, and it'll probably pop up anyway, because we'd love to have you as part of the community. And I'm going to try to do these live stream Q&A more regularly, maybe once a week. It may be once every 2 weeks. And I'm always having people ask me questions, and this just is a much, much more efficient way for me to do it. In fact, there's no way I can, answer everyone back that sends me these questions. I would never be able to, frankly, cook food or clean my house or do all these other things I have to do or run my business. So anyway, thank you all so much for being here. It's always my delight. And I hope you will tune in for the next Ask Dr. Ann Live, which will probably be in a couple of weeks. All right. Or maybe even next week. But again, the way you're going to know is join my list, because we will let you know that way. All right. I think I'm done. Yeah, I'm just going to end it.